Good evening, everyone. This is Veer Maheshwar Charitable Trust Latur MS India organizing daily international webinar series. In this series, speakers are invited from India and abroad. Speakers are sharing their knowledge as per their expertise and research. It's every day and running from last 5 years. Daily, we are enriching in the knowledge on various topics delivered by the speakers related to education, environment, technology, law, etc. Today, on 26th June, we have invited Dr. Farheen Sayyad ma'am, who is Faculty of General Management and Marketing from Thane, Maharashtra, India. The topic is research methodology. I welcome you, ma'am, from my organization, from all the participants, those who are joined here. The topic is related to all of us because we are guiding our students for the research. At that time, the topic research methodology comes an important factor related to our type of the research we have selected. Today, Dr. Farheen Said ma'am will explain about the details about the research methodology and we listen her in next session. I welcome you, ma'am, and you can start your speech now. Thank you. For kind information of the participants, today we again welcome our future resource person, Nosin Maleki ma'am, who is joined from the Iran. We welcome you, ma'am, also, and request to stay to this webinar today. Thank you, ma'am, for joining from Iran.
I want to say hello to everyone. Thank you very much for that opportunity you've given me, and I hope we can have better cooperations in the field of education. Thank you very much.
Welcome, ma'am. I request Dr. Farheen Saida ma'am to continue her session. Thank you. Kindly check your audio. We are unable to listen. There is a obstacle sound from your side. You can try to speak, ma'am. No sound. Just rejoin. No problem.
Am I audible now?
Yes, ma'am. Perfect. You can continue.
Okay. So, thank you so much, sir, for this opportunity. As sir has already introduced today's topic, that we are going to talk about research methodology, and many of us are from the education industry and into the academia, and in this, it's very important for us to get involved into the research activities. So I hope after this session, it would be easier for us to understand how the research process will take place and how we can finally get our research papers and research work published at the top tier journals. So as you can see on the screen, uh, uh, that what all things we are going to cover in this particular session. First, how we are going to develop the research idea, what are the methodological design, then how are we going to collect the data acquisition, then how the analysis is conducted, then how the structure of your research paper or any study matters, how the peer review simulation take place, and how you can target to the top tier publication. First, let us understand what exactly research methodology means. It is nothing but conducting your research systematically, following the steps, following the processes, identifying what research area you are going to get into. Then, once you have selected your research area, what you'll do is you will try to find out the research gap. How you'll conduct the evidence gap mapping or the research gap analysis after the thorough literature review. Once you have done the literature review, you will be able to get the answers. What exactly has been done in this particular area? It was done in which geography, what the earlier researchers were trying to answer, and what kind of theories that are already existed, whether these theories are tested empirically, or what kind of research that is being done, whether it is a qualitative research or quantitative research that are done in that particular area. So once you are done with a thorough literature review or the bibliometric analysis, you will be able to identify the gaps that lie in that particular area, and then you will develop your research hypothesis, the statement that this will be my exact contribution to this particular study. So so it's very important for you to identify what are the different theoretical framework that are there in this particular area. For example, let's say, for example, my topic is, or my research area is related to technological adoption by the consumers. So I'm a marketer or I'm a professor in marketing, and I'm trying to identify what exactly are the determinants or the factors that are impacting the particular technology adoption. Let's say the Blinkit or any e-commerce or a quick commerce platform or any application for that matter. So what exactly are the factors that are impacting my consumers, either their satisfaction or their trust, etc. So there are a number of theories. For example, one of the theories, technology adoption model. So that theory I can incorporate and I can empirically test. So I'll see whether it is actually tested by the other researchers, what exact question they were trying to answer, and what kind of area that they have selected, the geographical area I'm talking about. So these are the important steps you will take before you get involved into actually collecting of the data, validating your, developing your questionnaire, designing the entire set of constructs and variables and everything, and testing, pilot testing it, and then finally collecting the data and analyzing it. So all these things matter. Then here we will understand what are the reasons the critical points where the research methodology can fail. So while statistical analysis is often perceived as a primary determinant of our research quality, most shortcomings originate much earlier in the research process if we have done the research methodology inaccurately. So what are these critical points? First is poorly defined problem. So if let's say I've selected a topic or I've selected a problem which is not very significant in the market. Nobody needs it, neither the academia nor the industry, or let's say the industry also doesn't need it. So why am I conducting this research? Who's going to use or will be benefited by the findings of my study? So it's very important for you to have your problems perfectly defined so that it is significant and it will have an implications to industry, academia, and so on. So the next important thing is what are the problem that we are defining? It needs to have clarity and originality. Novelty should be there. So all the top journals, if you see, they look for novelty in your research. That is very, very important. Then absence of meaningful gap. As in the introduction itself, I said that after the conduction of the literature review or the bibliometric analysis, depend upon the nature of your paper, you will conduct the evidence gap mapping. So evidence gap mapping will help you to identify a meaningful gap in the particular area that you are involved into. So sometimes what happens, if we found that the limited literature is there, and we consider it as a genuine gap, which is wrong. So a gap analysis or identifying the exact area where your contribution will take place is very, very important. Then third is weak theoretical foundation. So if your study is only descriptive rather than exploratory or explanatory, then again your research will have no meaning to it. Then methodological misalignment using the descriptive methods for causal question. What is causal question? What is the impact of variable A on the variable B, or the independent variable on the dependent variable? The impact of independent variable on the dependent variable. So if you are using the descriptive method to answer the question of how X variable affects the Y variable, then again your methodology is wrong, and then your research will have false conclusions and findings. Then poor measurement, unvalidated scale, and lack of construct validity. It's very, very important. In the further slides, we are going to see how you're supposed to develop the scale and how the construct validity is extremely important. And what are the difference between when you are developing the scale, what are the steps that will take, and if you're adapting the scale, then how your research will go ahead if you're adapting the scale which is already there and which is already developed and used by the other researchers. Then inappropriate sampling is again a big no-no in the research methodology. Inappropriate sampling. So small sizes, unjustified convenience sampling, or choosing a wrong method or wrong technique of sampling based on the nature of your study, again will make your entire research insignificant. Inappropriate data analysis, misinterpreting the statistical or lack of theoretical justification, or using the wrong tool to test wrong kind of data, again can lead to a methodological failure. Then limited contribution, failing to explain what new knowledge is generated or extended. As I already told you, that it's very, very important that you identify the gap and you establish yourself. What's the novelty? What's the exact thing that you are offering in this particular area? That what's your contribution? So in the research methodology, we can say that it is divided into 3 different phases. Phase 1 is your foundation phase. Phase 2 is your execution phase, and phase 3 is your dissemination phase. What happens in phase 1 is you build the foundation of your particular study, which is the most important thing. Because if your foundation and if your these 5 steps are perfectly aligned, then it would become very easier for you to execute your study and then finally draw the relevant conclusion and findings. So first is identification of the research problem, as I've already talked about. Identifying what exactly you are going to study and what is the basic research question of your study is very important, because entire literature review and the further evidence gap mapping and everything will take place based on your identified research problem or the research area. Then you will conduct the literature review. You'll prevent the duplication, find the inconsistencies. You'll try to find out what exactly is not studied, what exactly is studied multiple times, or what kind of studies that were there, or how historically this particular topic has evolved, what are the different contributions, etc., etc. So you all these things you'll be able to identify in the step literature review. Then third is identification of the research gap. So once you have done the thorough literature review, you will be doing the you'll be able to identify the research gap. What exactly is the thing or the variable or the population or the geography or the demography is not being studied. Then development of research questions and objectives. So once you have identified the research gap, you have finalized your topic, you have identified your core research question that you're going to answer, then development of research questions and objectives will take place. So these are my questions, and based on that, these are my objectives, and simultaneously it has to have the research hypothesis also. So all these things are in a systematic and structured way. So first you'll define what is your research question and what are the research objectives of this particular study, and most probably each research objective will have a corresponding research hypothesis of your study base. Again, it totally again depend upon whether it is a qualitative study or quantitative study, that we'll discuss later on. But then if it is a quantitative study, then definitely it will have a underlying hypothesis statement also. Then in the stage 5, you'll select the theory or the conceptual framework that you're going to have a base for your particular study. Let's say if I want to study the satisfaction level for any kind of service, so I can use SERP model, which is a existing theory that is there to measure the satisfaction among the consumers of the any kind of services. So that kind of selection of a theory or a conceptual framework, either I will develop my own conceptual framework, or I'll adapt, or I'll take the existing studies that are there, and that I'll incorporate in my study. And then comes the execution phase, that is the point number 6, 7, and 8. So you'll design the overall research, the overall strategy. What type of study you will conduct, what type of methodology you will use, what type of research design you will use, whether it is going to be a descriptive study, whether it is going to be an exploratory or explanatory study, or whether it is going to be an experiential study. How are you going to collect the data, whether you'll be using the primary data or the secondary data. If primary data, then how are you going to collect the data, whether you're going to do survey, observation, you're going to use the questionnaire, or you are going to conduct the interviews of the sample that you have selected. If questionnaire, then what type of questionnaire that you are using, whether the questionnaire or the scale that are using in your questionnaire, so whether it is already pre-existing, available, and developed by the other researchers, or you are developing on your own all those scales to measure the constructs and the variables in your study. So all those things you will decide and design in this particular stage. Again, a very, very, very critical stage. Then measurement, sampling, and then data collection will take place. After the data collection, you will do the pilot testing, and if everything goes well, then you'll go for the rigorous data analysis. So depend upon what type of study you have used, whether it is a qualitative or quantitative, you'll accordingly select the data analysis tools or the data analysis softwares that are there in the market. Then the phase 3, which is the dissemination stage, stage 9 and stage 10, interpretation of the findings. So you'll be connecting your results to the theory or the previous research that are conducted in that particular area. So whether that your results support that particular theory or the previous researchers, or the results contradict the existing findings or the contribution of the researchers that are there. Then the last is drawing the conclusion, and then finally summing up the discussion and the conclusion section of your particular study. And of course, later on you have to give reference list and bibliography and everything. So the first stage, as I already told you, that is sourcing and filtering a meaningful problem. So how it is going to take place? So how you can come up to a meaningful research problem that will give a direction to your study, that will give a clear cut direction to your study, is first you'll study the existing literature, and you'll try to understand what are the unanswered questions by thoroughly studying these studies. One of the best method nowadays people are using is the bibliometric analysis. So what you can do is you can extract the papers from the Scopus using the Prisma model. Due to the time constraint, I was not able to include the details of the Prisma model and the bibliometric analysis, but hopefully in future, if provided with the opportunity, we would try to cover that also. But that is one of the best way to identify what exactly is the trend in that particular area. You can use your keywords of the particular research area that I have selected, and you can extract the papers from the reliable databases such as Scopus or Web of Science and etc. And then you can identify using the bibliometric tools what are the different gaps, or what are the prominent researchers or authors in that particular area, what are the different keywords that are used together, and what is the evolution of that particular topic in the given period of time, and on what is the area, what is the variable, what is the construct in that particular research area which is still not touched or not explored enough. So all those things you will be able to identify. Then one of the method of identifying the research problem is practical or industry challenges. For example, there's one firm who has been encountered with let's say the customers are not satisfied. There are a lot of complaints that are coming from the customers. So this is one of the problems. So that becomes our research problem or the research question, that what are the factors that are contributing to the dissatisfaction among the consumers, or the consumers are not being inclined or not trusting the brand enough. So again, that can be your research problem. Then government policies and societal issues. So for example, when I was working in my PhD research, so my topic was related to micro health insurance. So it was a insurance that was specifically curated for the people who have the low income. So the ticket size was very low, the premium was very low, so does the compensation, but it was targeted to people who are below the poverty line or just on the poverty line. So one day, me and my honorable guide, and we were sitting, and then some NGO they came to him asking for that they are offering, and they want to collaborate with their academic institute, and they are offering such kind of insurances. So whether he would like to have it for the support staff or the housekeeping staff of that particular research institute. So that was the idea, that why not to explore such kind of insurances that are there in the market and how they are impacting the life of the economically vulnerable population of the country. So this is how the societal issues and the government policies can also sometimes give you the direction and will help you to identify a meaningful problem that are there or that exist, so that you can build a proper research based on that. Then emerging technologies and trends. You must have seen a lot of conferences that are taking place on AI in marketing, or AI in education, and there are so many things. So AI being the emerging technology, or one of the biggest revolution of this particular time, every industry, be it education, research, be it the commercial companies and industry, they are also incorporating AI in each and every function and element of their operations. So how it is impacting them? So this becomes your problem statement, that there is some emerging technology, and what are the trends to it. So let me identify what are the impact of AI into marketing. Let me identify how AI is impacting the academia. Let me identify how AI is impacting the human resource management. So this can be your one of the way of identifying the problem. Then contradictory findings. So let's say you were doing the literature review and you found researcher X has found the relationship between A and B is the variable A and B is negative, whereas another researcher has found that no, there is a positive relationship between variable A and variable B. So there are contradictory findings. So you are going to conduct. So now you have the question: if I conduct this particular study into this geography or this area using these parameters, so what exactly is going to be the study? Whether I am going to support Mr. X, and my study will result in A being negatively associated with B, or my study is going to say otherwise, that A is positively associated with B. So they have a positive relationship. So such kind of situation will give you the help you in identifying your research problem. Then also your personal observation. Let's say one of my student, he was from science background and he was conducting he was trying to develop a particular software or a system for the management of the queue in the hospital and the OPD and the waiting area, because he found out that during the COVID and everybody was just waiting for the doctor, and then the time was given to the patient was 7 p.m. Whereas by the time we reached to the cabin of the doctor's cabin, it is 8:45 or 9 p.m. So 2 hours is just wasted, and we are all sitting together in a close proximity, and the chances of infection catching to each other is huge. So this was his personal observation, and then he tried to research, and he conducted the surveys and interviews of doctors, hospitals, and patients. And then after the collection of the data, he himself developed an app that actually helps the OPD patient management. So these examples are the situations where we can actually develop, get to identify the research problem. So once you have identified the research problem, you need to be clear and focused. The research problem needs to be relevant and significant, as I already told you. It has to be original or contextually novel. So specifically, if you want to target to the top journal, your topic needs to be novel enough. So you cannot be doing the same research again and again and again and again, which already the previous researchers have done. So there has to be a certain novel element in your study for you to stand out in the crowd. Then it needs to be feasible within the resources that you have. It has to have support by literature. So existing literature and study must be done. Must have been done in that particular area. And then the study needs to have the capability of generating the insights, be it for the government, be it for in short, it needs to have a significance for any of the stakeholder, be it for academics, be it for the doctors, let's say in the personal observation example that I gave you, that the OPD patient management. So it need to have a significance to doctors or the patient. So any research that you're conducting, it needs to have a use or the feasibility element. So for example, the broad topic that I've selected, let's say I want to study AI in marketing. So my research problem can become, despite the increasing use of AI generated marketing content, consumers often question its authenticity, influencing their trust and purchasing decision. So I would like to identify how AI generated marketing content, whether it is disclosed, so there can be two scenarios, whether it is disclosed to the audience or the consumers, or second is it is not disclosed to the consumers. So if it is disclosed, how the consumers perception towards the brand's authenticity or brand trust and the purchase decision or brand loyalty or satisfaction gets impacted. So such kind of research problem or research statement you'll be able to develop after conducting this particular research. So what is the difference between a research gap and a research problem? So research gap is nothing but the missing knowledge in the literature. It indicates what is known. And what is research problem? It's the specific issue to be investigated, explains what the study, my particular study, is going to address. Okay? In the research gap, inconsistent findings. What will be the source? What will be the origin? So how you'll be able to identify the research gap? Inconsistent findings, unexplored variables, methodological limits, or any emerging phenomena, as we discussed AI. So, and what will be the origin of your research problem? Directly developed from the identified research gap. So first you'll be able to identify the research gap, and then you'll develop your research problem. Then applied examples. So most studies in AI disclosures have been conducted in developed countries, and the influence of AI disclosure on consumer trust in emerging markets remain underexplored. So this will become my research problem. So how you're going to be specific, or how you're going to finally decide your title? So from broad topic to specific question. So the question, how does AI disclosure influence the consumer trust in digital marketing communication? Your general objective will be to examine the influence of AI disclosure on consumer trust in digital marketing communication. And under this, you'll have your specific question. So what will be your specific question? So you want to examine the relationship between AI disclosure and perceived authenticity. What is the relationship? Whether they are not related to each other, whether they are negatively associated with each other, whether they are positively associated with each other. So what exactly is the case? Then specific objective 2, to assess the effect of perceived authenticity on consumer trust. So in the first statement, you have in objective, you want to establish the relationship between AI disclosure and the perceived authenticity. Whereas in the second objective, you want to understand whether the perceived authenticity have any impact on consumer trust. And then you are coming up with a mediating variable, and you're trying to identify or investigate the mediating role of authenticity in this particular relationship, whether the AI disclosure can lead to consumer trust mediated by the perceived authenticity. So well-formulated research questions ensure that the study remains focused and methodologically aligned. Then, as I've already told you, that it's very important to incorporate a particular theory in your study. Very, very important. So, for example, so why we will incorporate the theory? So it's a base. So based on the theory, you will be able to develop your research objectives, research hypothesis, and then you'll be able to develop the interpretation. Based on this theory, these are the relationship between the variables, and my findings either suggest those relationships that are there in the theory, or or it is otherwise, vice versa. So this is how your research process will look like. So the function of theory is to explain why and how a phenomena happen, rather than simply describing what happens. So theory explain why is this happening. So guides hypothesis development, prevent the studies from becoming merely just a descriptive study. So what are the common theories, metrics? So these are the topics related to marketing and the consumer behavior. So let's say if you are studying consumer behavior, then you can have the stimulus organism and response theory. So this study talks about how the external stimulus affect the organism and then how it affect the responses. So for one of my study I was conducting to test the smartwatch brand loyalty. So there were certain variables. Of course, the smartwatch, the brand loyalty will become your response. So for stimulus, there were the brand related experience, then the marketing communication, and all those things were listed as the stimulus. And then in organism, there were two variables that were talking about the brand trust and brand satisfaction, and how these stimulus are impacting the organism, such as the brand trust and brand satisfaction, and how ultimately these brand trust and brand satisfaction is leading to the response, that is the brand loyalty. So this is how the research is built on a particular theory, the foundation. So then if you are studying any kind of technology adoption in any study, then TAP, that is technology acceptance model, can be used. For human behavior study, the theory of planned behavior can be used. For brand relationship marketing theory can be used. For resource management, the conservation of resource theory can be used. Or simultaneously, you can incorporate two or more theory in your particular research. So it's not necessary that you will incorporate only one, but at least try to have one theory or for your particular research. So so how you will be developing a conceptual framework. So for your conceptual framework, you need to identify and define the different types of variables that are going to be there in your study. So first is going to be your independent variable, and then you'll be identifying the impact of independent variable on the dependent variable, that is the outcome or effect. For example, let's say in the SOR that I explained, that one of the study I was conducting, the independent variables were the brand experience, the feature of the smartwatch, the brand ambassador or the brand communication, then how the marketing or the positioning of the brand is there, whether they are promoting it as a premium or a luxury brand, and etc. So how these things are impacting my brand trust and satisfaction. So in this particular thing, the independent variable will become all the features and everything of that particular product or the brand, and then the dependent variable will become the brand trust and brand satisfaction. And then when you are studying the impact of brand trust and satisfaction on the brand loyalty, then in this case the brand loyalty will become the dependent and brand trust and satisfaction will become independent variables. Then what is mediating and moderating variables? Very, very important. And if you are developing a conceptual framework, these days the reviewers also look for the models or the framework that incorporate the mediating and moderating variables into that particular framework in the study. So what is moderating? So the condition that strengthens and weakens or alters the relationship. So for example, if I want to study the impact of independent variable on the dependent variable, moderating variable will help me identify the strength, weakness, or what kind of relationship they are going to have if moderating variable is present or if moderating variable is not present. Then what is mediating variable? So it is a mechanism through which the IV influences the IV means independent variable influences the dependent variable. So what's the checklist for a strong framework? It needs to be theory driven. It needs to be logically structured. It needs to be consistent with the literature, and it needs to have a relevant objective. So these are the different research designs that we can actually use. There are other designs also, but generally these are the four type of research design we as a researcher use predominantly. What is exploratory? So why we use exploratory research design? When the knowledge is very limited and we want to identify what exactly this particular phenomena is. So we use the exploratory research design. So it generates the insights and identifies the future direction of a particular study. So we are just exploring that particular topic. Okay? Then in descriptive, what happens is we're not testing the relationship between any two variables. We are just describing the particular features or facts. Let's say I am just studying how many students that are there in my college, how many female are there, how many male are there, how many people falls under which what do you say, the percentage or the IQ level, and how many people come from the rural area, or how many people who are coming from urban area. So here I'm not establishing any kind of relationship between identified variables. Here I'm just describing the characteristics, behaviors, or opinion of the universe of my study that I've selected. Then comes the explanatory, that is the causal research, popularly known as. So here we examine the relationship between two variables. So cause and effect. What is the impact of X on Y or Y on X? What is the impact if the mediating variable is present? What's the impact if the moderating variable is present? So what is the direct impact of X on Y? And what is the indirect impact if we have a mediating variable called B? So all these kind of relationships are tested using the exploratory resource design. Then experimental. So it manipulates variables to establish the causality under the strict control conditions. Generally, all those scientific research that take place in the lab, they are called as the experimental research. So there are different approaches to your particular research design or to conduct your particular study. So first is the qualitative one. So here you just explore the experiences, meanings, and perception. And the quantitative data is not collected over here. Of course, you collect the data using the surveys, observations, interviews, etc. But the data that is collected is qualitative in nature, subjective in nature. And in the quantitative study, you actually measure the variables and test the relationship using the numerical tools and statistical tools that are there. Mixed method. So generally, these kind of research is nowadays most prominent. If you see, so it combines the both type of analysis or the type of study, the qualitative as well as the quantitative element into it. So the twin pillars of measurement quality, very, very important. So how you are going to develop the scale using, let's say if I'm developing a questionnaire. So if I'm developing a questionnaire, so what kind of questions I will include? Let's say if I'm going for a quantitative study, this is totally talking about the quantitative study. So what kind of questions I'll ask? Just so first is the nominal data. What is nominal data? It classifies the what do you say? The options into the various categories. For example, for the nominal data, your gender, your religion, your blood group, etc. Then for ordinal data, it ranks in order. Let's say I want to test the satisfaction, or I want to rank, or I want to test the loyalty, or if I want to test the quality. So I can rank it as poor, fair, good, excellent, strongly agree, too strongly disagree. So all these options that we can set in the ranking or in order, which will be called as the ordinal data. Then in interval, equal intervals without a true or a true zero. For example, we are asking the questions about the temperature in Celsius or IQ score or age range. So such kind of data will be in the interval data format. What is ratio? It generally equal intervals with a true zero. For example, age, income, height, weight, number of products that a person purchases, number of years since using that particular product, all those things. So such kind of measurement type of questions that you can use to measure one particular construct. So how you'll be evaluating your particular measurement? So the first is the reliability. Now, what is reliability in our particular study? So reliability refers to the consistency or stability of one particular measurement. For example, let's say if same thing we are measuring again and again repeatedly under the same condition, so the result of that particular study should be very similar. So a reliable instrument always produces the consistent results every time. So for example, let's say we are weighing our weight. So for the weighing machine, if today it shows 70 kg and tomorrow also it shows 70 kg, next week also it shows 70 kg, so the weighing machine is reliable because it gives the consistent reading of one particular thing. So this is how, then this is why testing the reliability of a measurement is very, very important. So for example, in our research or from a marketing point of view, I want to study the customer satisfaction. So if I'll ask the respondents today and again after a few days, and if their responses remain almost the same, assuming nothing has changed from the brand side, so our questionnaire is reliable. So there are a number of tests of reliability that we can conduct. That is test, retest reliability, internal consistency, which is most commonly used and we often use in our study, which is Cronbach alpha. It helps in identifying establishing the internal consistency of our scale. So if the result of that particular concept is more than 0.7, then it is considered as a reliable in the reliable state. So then there are other type of inter-rate or reliability and etc. So then what is validity? Validity helps us in identifying the accuracy of our instrument. So for example, the instrument actually measures what it is intended to measure. For example, accuracy is in measuring the intended concept. So let's say I want to study consumer trust in AI advertisement. So that I want to identify. We'll take the same example. So if I want to study the consumer trust in AI advertisement or AI generated advertisement, so our questions should be around topics like trust, credibility, confidence, honesty, AI generated content, marketing, and etc. We should not be asking questions such as what are your thoughts related to the pricing or packaging or the color preferences or the brand ambassador and all those things, because that will not be the elements of identifying the consumer trust in AI generated advertisement or marketing. So these are the different types of validity constructs that I mentioned. Content validity. So what is the content validity? So does the questionnaire cover all the important aspects? So for example, if as I told you ki agar hum service quality, if we are trying to identify the service quality, so what kind of questions should we cover? So we should cover responsiveness, reliability, empathy, assurance, tangibles. So all these are the service quality dimensions. So if we are covering each and everything, so our content validity is strong. If we are missing on any kind of problem or the construct from these, so the validity will not be accurate or not be valid. Then what is construct validity? For example, I'm trying. So I'm trying to I'm trying to measure a construct such as brand trust or brand satisfaction. So all the question will be related to brand trust. If I'm studying brand satisfaction, then all the questions will be related to brand satisfaction. If I'm studying brand loyalty, then all the questions will be related to brand loyalty. And what is convergent validity? So it measures that should be related, actually show how show a strong relationship between two variables such as brand trust and purchase intentions are expected to be positively related to each other. So if the convergent validity is supported in this particular study, but let's say if we are saying that brand trust and let's say the risk perception, so they are not related to each other, so they are different constructs, so they should remain distinct. So if they overlap too much, then discriminant validity will be poor. So technically they should not overlap. So research should use questionnaire that have already been. So generally, whenever you are conducting any kind of research, first try to identify whether the reliable scale or existing validated scale is already there. There. So then you'll just adopt it. Then rather than you'll invent your unvalidated new one, because then you'll have to go for, let's say if you're going for SEM, that is structural equation modeling, then you'll have to conduct a rigorous exploratory analysis, and then the conformative factor analysis and exploratory factor analysis to validate your scale. That becomes a very tiring task. So if the scale is already validated and existing scale is there in the market, so what you can do, you can just adapt. And then after conducting a conformative factor analysis, you can directly go for the structural equation modeling for your particular study. So after this, we'll just have a look on what is the sampling techniques that are there. So sampling is nothing but you selecting the sample representative from your entire universe. Let's say if I am studying the brand satisfaction of a brand, so all the users of that particular brand will be my target population or my universe. But I cannot be conducting, or I cannot be collecting the data from each and every individual that uses that particular brand product. So I will be selecting only the representative of those consumers to collect the data from, and then I will conduct the data analysis, and then I'll draw my references and conclusion. So first technique is probability sampling. So what happens in the probability sampling is that each and every person in the universe will have an equal chance of being selected. So everything will be based on the probability. So there are different type of probability sampling techniques. 4 of them I've just mentioned because of the time constraint. I'm not able to cover each and everything. So one of them is the simple random sampling. So what am I doing is randomly I am selecting the sample from the given set of data. Randomly I'm selecting. There's no system, there's no technique, there's no grouping, there's no cluster that is being created. Randomly I'm just picking anybody from that particular population. Then in systematic, what will happen? You'll just arrange them in a list or in an order, and then you'll select, let's say there's a list of 1,000 people, and you want to select, let's say 100. So you're selecting every nth number, let's say every 5th number, or जैसे कि 5th, 10th, 15th, 20. So you'll arrange them in an order, and systematically you will pick the sample for your particular study, but in a systematic manner. In stratified, what happens is you divide your entire population into a different strata or different group, you may call it as. Let's say I'm segregating male, female, I'm segregating people based on their age group, I'm segregating people based on their income level, I'm segregating the group based on their geography, urban, rural, semi-urban, semi-rural, all those things, and then I am selecting 5% people from each strata or 10% people from each strata. So that will be called as a stratified random sampling. And what happens in cluster is stratified sampling is done on the basis of we dividing the group based on their features, the demographic factors. But in cluster, it is generally done based on the specific area. Let's say I'm studying something, and my universe is consumers based in Mumbai. Let's say, so I am just creating a cluster of Central Mumbai. I'm creating a cluster of Western Mumbai, New Mumbai, and a different type of cluster I've created, and then I'm picking people from these different clusters. So the next is the non-probability sampling. What happens is that it is generally on the convenience and the judgment of the researcher. So the first and type of the non-probability sampling is the convenience. That means there is no scientific rule or the system or any order applied to select the sampling from the universe. The researcher collect data from the people who are at the convenience. Let's say I want to conduct the data and I am based in Thane, so I'm collecting people data from the people who are in and around Thane, from my complex or from my college and etc. But generally, it is not advisable to go for this, because then we will not be able to have an representation of each and every type of demography or the geography and etc. Then in the purposive, what is done again, the people are divided into groups, and then the every nth or again here also the data is collected from the specific people who have the researcher has identified by his observation or his convenience, that I'm going to collect data from these people only. So purposefully, the data is collected from that particular group. Then the snowball. What happens in the snowball is for my particular study specifically, the snowball study was used because then I was identifying in one of my study, I was identifying the users or the beneficiaries of the micro insurance policy. So if I was able to get one user of the micro insurance policy, I used to ask them whether do you know anybody, your relative, your friend, or any neighbor of yours who's also using the micro insurance policy. So they used to give me the reference of that particular person. So I used to approach them for the data collection. Then so the cycle used to go on. So this is how the snowball sampling works. Your respondent helps you to get to the another one. Then in quota, you assign the different quota to different groups, and then you collect data again on the basis of the non-probability, where the researcher himself decide the population to which he is going to take the representation from. So what's the warning? As I've already told you, that lack of justification for the convenience sampling. Why? First thing, a researcher should always avoid the convenience sampling method. But even if you are using it, then you need to justify why you're using a convenience sampling method, because again, it will not have a representation from all the target population that we want to study. So appropriate size of the population is not a guess. Generally, it depends on the research design, the population size that you have for a particular study, what are the statistical technique that you are using, then desired confidence level that you want to achieve, and then expected effect size. So all these require a power analysis to establish a particular or established guidelines to establish or decide the particular number of your sampling that you're going to use. So how are you going to collect the data? So So methods in the field, how you're going to collect the data, you can conduct questionnaires. I've already told you if you're using questionnaire and if you're conducting a quantitative study, then what type of questions that you can include, the nominal scale, the Likert scale is also there. It's again a part of ordinal scale only. So ordinal scale, nominal scale, and these are the scale or already established validated scales are also there that you can adopt. Then you can conduct the interviews. You can have it collect the data using the focus group discussion. Then you can have your own observation, or you can rely upon the secondary data, the reports, or the financial reports, or the government reports that are published on a periodical basis. So you can collect data from that secondary sources also. So it's very important that maintaining the ethical standard is not just a theoretical hurdle. You need to understand it directly. What do you say? Enhances the credibility and trustworthiness of the research. So that's very important that whenever you are collecting the data, you need to maintain the ethical standards of collecting the data, be it primary or secondary. You need to always cite the source that you have used. So, so once you have selected the data, you've done the pilot study, you have established the validity and reliability of your particular scale. So you will now be moving towards the analysis. So there are different type of analysis that you can have. So first is the descriptive analysis, second is the inferential analysis, then advanced technique, and then the qualitative analysis. If your study is having the qualitative research element into it. So in the descriptive analysis, what type of tools that you'll be using? So methods would be you'll be using frequencies, percentages, mean, standard deviation, etc. In the inferential analysis, you will be actually testing the hypothesis and the relationship between your variables. And the test that you can use is correlation, regression, t-test, ANOVA, chi-square, etc. And in the advanced techniques, of course, if you have incorporated structural equation modeling, and if your framework incorporates SEM modeling in your study using the mediating and moderating variables, then definitely you can go for structural equation modeling, the partial least square method, mediation, moderation, multi-group analysis. And there are different softwares that are there. MOS is there, SmartPLS is there. So all those softwares you can use for conducting such kind of advanced techniques into your data. Then in the qualitative analysis, understanding the meanings and context of your particular study, you can use a thematic analysis. Bibliometric analysis is also used in the qualitative analysis these days. Then you can have the narrative qualitative analysis. There are software such as NVivo or Viewer. All these softwares are these days used for qualitative analysis. The methodological choice is directed by your objective, nature of variable that you have, then measurement scale that you have incorporated, and your sample size. So for example, if your sample size is very small, then you won't be able to go for SEM and PLS-SEM. So because for SEM and PLS-SEM, you require a huge set of data. So then you can definitely go for correlation, regression, and t-test and everything. So totally depend upon what type of methodological choices you have made in your phase 1 that we have discussed in the entire process. These were the 10 steps. So in the first stage, what you have established or what you have decided will be directing you to what type of the type of analysis that you'll be doing, whether you'll be going for simple descriptive analysis, or you will be getting involved into inferential analysis to test the hypothesis and the relationship between variables, or you'll have to incorporate the advanced techniques, or if your study is the qualitative one, then you'll be having the qualitative analysis techniques. So here comes the most important thing, that what reviewers look in our study. So first and the foremost thing that they see is novelty and the originality that have already put emphasis on in the previous slides, that the study that we are conducting has to address a meaningful gap and contributes genuinely new knowledge in the literature. So it's very important to have the novelty element in your study. Then theoretical contribution, of course, how it is extending or supporting or intelligently challenging the existing framework that are there. One of the very beautiful study, I exactly don't remember the author's name, but then they have developed the app call. Like we have served for all the people who are from the marketing or the management, they'll be able to understand that to identify the satisfaction, we have the surf call model. So they were finding it very difficult to use the surf call model for all these apps that we use, such as Grow or all those investment related app, Grow, Upstocks, Angel One, and all those things. So they have developed a new measurement scale or the new theory called as app call. So how your study or how your research either extend the existing theory, or it supports the existing theory, or you are challenging that this has become obsolete now, or this is no more relevant. So this is going to be the new theory that I am proposing. So such kind of elements needs to be there in your research. Then methodological rigor. So whatever decision you are taking, be it decision related to your design, the sampling technique that you are selecting, the measurement scale that you are coming up with, or any kind of analysis technique you're using, whether you're going for SEM, which is an advanced statistical tool, whether you are incorporating qualitative analysis, whether you are mixing both, that is qualitative as well as the quantitative. So why you have selected such kind of research methodology, you need to answer it, you need to justify it. That is the very important thing that the reviewers look for. Then practical relevance, so yields highly actionable implications for practitioners, policymakers, stakeholders, be it consumers or the industry, the companies, etc., or the government or the society. So your study needs to have a practical relevance. Then the quality of writing. So no matter how rigorous study you have conducted, it's very important to have a structured write-up. So you'll always start with the introduction, and then you'll talk about the research question that you have. Then you can always talk about the literature review. Then in the literature review, you can discuss what are the different studies that are already done. Then you can definitely come up with these are the theories that I would like to incorporate in my study. Then you can talk about these are the research framework that I would be using. These are my variables. Then you'll discuss about the research methodology that you have used. What are the design, how you have collected the data, what type of sampling technique you have used, how much is your sample size, why you have selected such kind of sample size, how are you going to conduct your studies analysis, and all those things you'll be justifying. And then will come your analysis finding, and then later on you'll have a discussion session where you will be discussing about your arguments, whether you support the particular theory or you challenge the particular theory. So discussion will take place that my findings support existing study X, Y, and Z, or my findings contradict the findings of theory A, the study A, B, and C conducted by so and so in the year so and so. So all these things you will be writing in your discussion section. And very, very important thing, that ethical standard you need to follow, flawless conduct regarding the consent, anonymity of the people that you have collected data from, and objective reporting, that you will be informing that why you have been collecting that particular data. So what's the important note over here is reviewer feedback should be viewed as a structural diagnostic tool to strengthen the framework, not a personal critique. So sometimes we often get disheartened by the feedback that we receive from the reviewer. So it's very, very important that we take it in a positive way, and consider it as a base for improving your particular paper, and strengthen your work, and don't take it as a personal critique that and we totally understand that we put 6 months or 1 year of effort in writing or developing a particular framework, and then conducting a literature review, collecting the data, testing it, then again changing it, conducting the confirmatory factor analysis, exploratory factor analysis, HTMT, and all those things we conduct, and then we write it, taking 2 months or 3 months of time, and then so sometimes if you receive the major, what do you say, the revision, we become disheartened. So it's very important for you to don't take it personally, and try to improve yourself. If the reviewer has suggested you something to strengthen your particular framework. So what's the conclusion? So I would like to conclude by saying that um, the if you really want to have the publication or your paper being accepted, and your research methodology be very much strong, and your paper being accepted in the quality journals. So it's very important to understand this particular equation, that you need to have a meaningful problem, then to address, to solve, to identify, and to discuss that particular problem, you need to have a methodological alignment. Then your rigorous execution will lead to the meaningful contribution. And what is meaningful contribution? High impact publication in the good databases and good top journals. So the golden rule is research begins with a problem, not a statistical technique. A gap justifies the need. The problem defines the focus, and methodologically is logical, interconnected sequence. So it has to be in a structured manner. I cannot be collecting the data first and deciding my research question and research objectives later on. So it never happens that way. It has to be in a sequence and in a structured manner. And it is not based on the isolated choices. They are interconnected to each other. My research problem will decide my research question and an objective, and the hypothesis will be based on the objective. My variables will be based on my hypothesis, and so on and so forth. So this is what exactly you'll be looking for when you are designing a research methodology, and if you want to target the high impact journal. So I would like to conclude by saying that good research is not defined by sophisticated methods, but by asking meaningful questions, following a rigorous methodology, and generating the knowledge that advances the theory and practice. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr.
Thank you, sir.
Farheen Sayyad ma'am. It was great to listen to you that it is all very useful topic, right from choosing a correct research problem to finding research gap till the publication and the impact of any research on the society. So research may be from any art, commerce, science, or practice. We also share of your journey. We must thankful for giving the best PPT, uh, 1 hour 15 minutes. If I have any question, they can ask to the speaker. research you. Mute. Sanshula, please.
Thank you, Doctor. Very important aspect you have discussed today regarding the research methodology. And we belong to the means I'm related with the medical research and clinical research more. So we are having observational study and we are having interventional study also. So we are going for medicines potentials. So we are using all this, the chi-square test, the inferential statistics like t-test, paired t-test, and unpaired t-test. I want to ask about, what is the relevance of, exact relevance of degree of confidence, please elaborate on this because people adjust at this level as per their, requirements. What do you think about this?
Yes, Dr. Farheen ma'am, kindly try to reply the question raised by Dr. San Shukla sir. Just a formal discussion. I think you are
Yes.
present
So,
here.
so,
Yes,
so,
thank you.
um, yeah, I'm audible. So, you said you're into the medical research, the core scientific research, right?
Yes,
Yes,
perfect.
clinical research and scientific, sometimes public research, public sector also.
Okay. So can you please repeat your question? That what exactly you want to know? That why we adjust the confidence level, and so so let's say so for example in your study how much confidence level you keep 95%, because in the social science study we generally keep confidence level as 95%.
Correct. But sometimes, people adjust themselves for some reasons. So, at least in the clinical research and medical research, we should not, we should have a 95% or maybe more than that. So that will be a helpful because we are dealing with the health of the people and we are coming with the research of health, aspects.
Hmm. So see, I'm not into such kind of research, but definitely we in the social sciences we keep the confidence level generally to the 95%. But uh, uh, see, uh, uh, if we suppose we are estimating the effectiveness of a new drug, let's say, so 95% confidence level we have kept and the result is 70%. So your study is so critical that we won't be able to accept that. You need to have at least 0.95 and more than that, right? So I don't know whether the people keep on adjusting it in the medical science, how much confidence level alteration is allowed. I'm not updated to that particular knowledge, but in our study, generally I keep my confidence level at 0.95, and in some studies, in certain exception, people go up till 0.9. But I don't think so. Key in medical, it would be possible, as you were mentioning that you are involved into the studies related to drugs or something. That is also there in your experimental studies that you do.
We are going with the comparative studies like, test we are using and we are comparing, or maybe a pair t test and unpaired t test we are using for for the studying the effects of before and after also. So these are the two things what we are using.
Hmm. So pair t-test we use when we are studying the same population. Let's say you're studying the impact of some drug on the same people. Let's say before taking that particular drug and after taking that particular drug, what's the difference on the people who have been given that particular drug? Then in that case, you can use the pair t-test.
Yes. Yes, thank you, ma'am. Thank you very much. And can you suggest, the apps, various apps, free of cost, because the students are involved in this kind of activities, maybe their dissertations and other things in medical field. So can you suggest any apps, which will be little easier for them?
Sir, I have very little information about the medical research that is being conducted, because my study is totally into consumer behavior and social sciences. But I would definitely try to identify. I will get in touch with you. Maybe Dr. Veer will be able to help us get connected, and then I'll be able to suggest certain AI-based research tools that your students can incorporate for the medical study. But then, if you talk about the social sciences, then definitely for the quantitative study, the SPSS, MOS, or Smart PLS is there for the quantitative data analysis. And for qualitative, again, the viewer is there. Then for bibliometric analysis, BiblioShiny is there. Then VOS Viewer I've mentioned. NVivo is again one of the great software for conducting the qualitative analysis. So all these softwares are there.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Wonderfully explained, all dependent, independent, variable, and the sequence of research methodology. And
Thank
many
you, sir.
people confused, to select a right research methodology method. And many of them are not knowing that they are having their own structures and they are universal. And that is a language the whole world realizes. And to prove the strength and potential of our medicines and in the clinical domain, it's so important that we use this research methodology. So definitely it is very helpful topic for us, and we got to know some other aspect of research methodology also. Thank you very much, ma'am.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Sir, for discussing with our speaker. I am also thankful to our future speaker, Nosin Maleki ma'am, who joined from Iran, and she is still in the session. I thankful ma'am to you, ma'am, for joining and staying in the session, and also wish all the happy Muharram to you all. And thank you, Farheen Said ma'am, for accepting our invitation and giving a best
Thank you.
speech in this
Thank you.
today, which is useful to all academicians, science teachers, researchers. Definitely, we will share this YouTube link to our students. This will be very helpful for the students to do their study, to choose the right research methodology, and for the presentation, and to find out the research gap. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you.
Feedback link is available in the chat box. All participants are requested to fill the feedback link. And in future also we will be here as a speaker on other topic as per your convenience. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Now the session is concluded. If anyone not filled the feedback link, they can fill, please. Thank you, Nosin Maliki ma'am.